Well, I'm back in Austin, Texas, after being out of town for more than a week and a half and broadcasting from the road, and it's good to be back in the studios with the crew. And we've got a doozy here. We could probably have 4 or 5 shows just out of what you're about to see tonight. I'm proud of the crew. They always overproduce because, well, they love liberty and they want to expose corruption and tyranny. Sunshine is the answer to the darkness. We've got Wayne Madsen, formerly with the NSA. We'll talk about Breitbart's mysterious death and more, and the threats that Wayne Madsen's been getting. Then I'm going to premiere here the hour-and-a-half speech I gave in Dallas, my blueprint to defeat the New World Order. So this is going to be like a 3-hour transmission or close to it this evening on the Infowars Nightly News for all of you out there watching. But first, I want to get into Texas Independence Day, because I forgot and didn't mention this on the radio today. My family on both sides was involved in Texas independence. I've studied the history. My mother's part of the Daughters of the Republic of Texas, and I can unequivocally tell you that despite what the government training camps try to teach you in public schools here in Texas and across the U.S., there was nothing racial about the war for independence. Slavery had nothing to do with it. It was all over the fact that the earlier Mexican government was fair, let you have guns and own your property. Santa Anna overthrew the government, became a dictator, took people's property all over Mexico. He had rebellions in the south of Mexico as well, and he later got overthrown, by the way. And that more than 35% of those that rebelled were Hispanic Mexicans, who then became Texans. And the fellow, you can go read it online, Mainline History, University of Texas, who wrote the Texas Constitution, was Hispanic. So they try to steal the Texas birthright from Hispanics. I know, because I went to public school and I went to college. It was badmouth Texas. They tried to ban Texas Independence Day at UT to make it some type of racial issue. And I'm not saying that in the years that followed there wasn't friction and stuff that went on, but it was not about race, ladies and gentlemen. It was about private property, and that's why the war started when the Mexican troops came to Gonzales to take the cannons and guns they'd been given to be part of the Mexican militia to defend against Indians and other things, and also outlaws. So they came to take the guns that the previous Mexican government that was freer had given them. And they were going to take their private guns, and so they ran up a flag and said, come and take it. Mexican troops showed up. There was a big gun battle. You know the rest of it. Alamo, everybody gets killed. Then the Battle of San Jacinto, all of it. All of it. And on this day, March 2nd, 1836, the Lone Star State was born, the only state that was its own country, and then opted in to the Republic. And Texas has the strongest rights under international law. We have the French legation, all of it, because Texas is the Lone Star State. And I thought that I would just mention the true history of that, because the system attacks it, because they don't want Hispanics to feel like they're Texans when they're as Texan as it gets. There's nobody more Texan than Hispanic Texans, and they don't want you to have that birthright. Don't let them take it away from you. Okay, shifting gears into other news here today. The BMJ, British Medical Journal, admits antipsychotic drugs kill far more people than terrorism. Well, yeah, in the trials of Eli Lilly for Prozac in the early 80s, it massively increased psychotic breaks, suicidal behavior, you name it. A new report published by the British Medical Journal has found that dangerous antipsychotic drugs are responsible for killing at least 1,800 dementia patients a year, which means that more people are killed by the U.S. Food and Drug Administration FDA-approved dementia drugs every 2 years than died in 9/11 terror attacks. And that's a very low number. And, of course, you get into all the other killings and the rest of it from the other drugs. It's in the hundreds of thousands every year that these drugs are killing. I don't like illegal drugs either. Heroin, cocaine, those are certainly bad for you, but they kill nothing compared to what prescription drugs that are just synthetic versions souped up. You know where heroin comes from? They'd sawed off tens of thousands of arms and legs on both sides of the Civil War in the 1860s here, and people were addicted to opium. So a company, Big Pharma, came out with something that would cure you of opium addiction. It was heroin, something like 10 times stronger, souped up opium. So, it's kind of like, we'll get you off the heroin with the methadone, which I don't think is worse, but it's certainly not better. It's just crazy. So There's the true history of that. These are just drug pushers that are so established that they've made all the organic drugs illegal because they're in competition with them. Okay, continuing here. This case really blew me away because it developed live on the air yesterday, and we've got some clips of that from the radio/TV show that's 11 to 2 Central as it developed. But first, I want to tell you what happened after the show yesterday. During a 3-minute break, I walk out. Darren McBreen says, man, they bowed up to us. They followed us out. They wouldn't talk to us. They said, this isn't a press conference, even though there was 3 other local news cameras there. They were talking to them. They knew who we were from our last report, which was a pretty fair report, I thought, about all these gunboats they're buying that cost close to $700,000 a piece. So I go on air and I say, man, they bowed up to my reporters. They did all this. Then the phone starts ringing. I got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 calls, text messages, program director, the manager, the news director, the producers. Turns out before we even went down there yesterday, for 3 days before, the state police were calling up producer numbers, their liaison in the news department at our local 590 affiliate, asking weird questions about me and stuff. So we must have hit a nerve because from what I've seen, these boats should cost about $150,000, the equipment another $100,000 to $200,000. So it looks like they should pay $350,000 for these boats, not close to $700,000. So I think we hit a nerve here. We need to look at who they bought them from, what they did, because they are freaking out over this. And quite frankly, 3 months ago when the guys first did this report, Darren McBreen and others, I said, man, this is just a local issue. So they're getting their own Navy. So they're going to have machine guns mounted on it. Okay, fine. But we got bigger fish to fry. Can I please have my killer flu story? Can I? Because, again, most news departments, the news director, which I would be, tells you what the story is. I let the guys, most of the time, do their own stories. And occasionally I say what I want to be done. And they take that as optional, but it's not really optional. But they do a great job. And dudes, and they're saying, no, the point is we're into freedom here. But now I realize their instinct to do this was good because, understand, they're calling up trying to basically get me off the air at 590. They called the program director, and we're like, Alex Jones is misrepresenting himself, one of their mind games, as 590, which is standard. When 3 months ago when they called about, hey, we're coming to your press conference because it said call first, I guess so they can spy on you, McBreen, they said, okay, because I guess that lady didn't know who I was. It turns out this head spokesman does. He says it on the tape. Todd Venger. They say, Alex Jones, Infowars.com. And they say, what's that? Well, it's a radio TV host. Well, where's he on the radio? 590 locally. Where's he on TV? Channel 10. So they took that, where I'm on radio and TV, and they spun it that we were misrepresenting ourselves. So this time they show up, they go, I'm not talking to you. You lied and said you're with 590. Where we take these reports, those of you that listen in Austin, and play them. This Sunday, I'm going to play this report on the radio. So it's always about how we're bad, we're suspects, we're evil, and we're concerned about Alex Jones, and weird phone calls, different people, I guess, trying to intimidate 590. Of course, it's the opposite. We just got the ratings. In fact, I have the congratulations right here. We're number 1 in Orlando, number 1 in Rochester, and in many other areas. Number 1, now that the instant people meters are coming out, replacing Arbitron. We're number 1 in several demographics for all radio in Central Texas. We're number 2 in the key demographic of 18 to 54. In fact, where's my iPhone? He sent me the ratings on it today. He was telling me about it on the phone yesterday. And it was just like, oh, we're so proud of what you're doing. We need to work on, trying to get it on prime time, the show. There's Discovery Channel calling. I was supposed to call them back. I mean, here's this cop implying I'm not media and I'm lying I'm media. And here I'm missing, calls from Discovery Channel that wants to, give me shows and stuff. I'm not bragging about how big we are. It's actually dangerous. I'm just sick of them playing their mind games. All right, enough. I kind of intro it here. It's just that, let me give you those numbers here. Let me pull up those ratings. Tell you what we got going on here. No, it's 25 to 54. The key demographic, number 2. All right, ladies and gentlemen, let's go ahead and go to this piece. Here it is, where the state police think they control the media now, like this is North Korea. Here it is.
Now we are here for the unveiling of yet another DPS patrol vessel. Now this is the second boat of what will eventually be a total of 6 34-foot shallow water interceptors to patrol the Rio Grande River. As the Texas Highway Patrol goes on a wild spending spree, these hot rod boats cost approximately $600,000 each. And yes, that's taxpayer money to fight Al-Qaeda and the small-time drug traffickers on the Texas rivers.
They're buying these giant $690-something thousand speedboats for lakes and rivers that have giant machine guns mounted all over them. And they didn't have the machine guns mounted 3 months ago when we first went out and talked to them at a lake. They didn't know who we were. We did a nice interview, put it on TV. I made my points about how we're going bankrupt, but they're constantly militarizing our police. Darren McBreen and John Brown went out there politely, and they were bowing up. They were saying, we're not going to talk to you, even though it was a press event that they called. They had state police standing right up in their space, and when they left, they had state police follow them out of the parking lot over by the lake.
I mean, here's my deal, man. I mean, you guys misrepresented yourselves with KLBJ. I called them, and they're like, no, they don't work for us.
It's not a misrepresentation. We're broadcast on KLBJ.
I mean, this is a public place. You're welcome to film.
But there's not a media representative that'll talk to us?
No.
It goes on to say, are John Brown and Darren McBreen on your staff? The DPS contacted our DPS contact, and we're also affiliated with your show. Can you shed any light on this? I mean, it's just crazy. The state police are calling our local affiliate because, wait, the media is not supposed to ask us questions. Wait a minute. You're not supposed to discuss what's going on. You're supposed to take it. You're supposed to, we give you a press release and you read it on air. That's how America works. We don't have a free press in America.
I mean, I have some talking points if you want to.
Yeah, some talking points. Yeah, I think we got those pretty much last time. I mean,
they're pretty much the same.
I know the cost of the boats and all that.
Yeah.
But we're just kind of wondering about joint military exercises, stuff like that. You know, if there's any.
I mean, you can ask it. Yeah, there's no joint military exercises planned that I'm aware of.
They're spending $600,000 on these.
The 600 plus.
Yeah, for a total of 6 of them. And this is the unveiling of the second one.
With machine guns, militarizing, and they don't like it. It's wrong to sit there and try to violate press freedom in this country. Can you believe calling up our affiliate, trying to imply we're doing something wrong, playing weird legalese games?
And by them following us, it seemed like intimidation. You know, it was pure intimidation.
Well, I mean, he's calling.
I know they plan on buying a lot of these unmanned drones.
DPS is not that I'm aware of.
The state is the state of Texas is not.
We're not.
Because there's like border patrol with the drones and all that.
Border Patrol is federal.
Well, but they're working with
the
federal agencies. That's what I mean. So it'd be like Homeland Security, for example, is federal. Yet they provided a lot of the funding for these boats that are here in the state. You know. So that's why I was wondering if there's any, federal cooperation with these unmanned drones as well for border patrol and fighting these out of control drug wars.
Yeah, I don't know. We don't have drones.
Yeah.
No, whose drones we have access to, I'm not even sure.
Rights activists or whatever are also concerned that maybe these boats will be used to like pull over somebody to, hey, do you have your fishing license? And you got all these tactical guns on there and do you have your fishing license? Is this boat registered? Is there any alcohol on board? That sort of thing. So those were kind of the questions we're going to ask. So.
Yeah, these are going to be used in standard border operations in cooperation with local, state, and of course, Border Patrol.
I hope you're right.
That's
you're right.
That's all they're there for.
We are right.
Well, sometimes they do, but like, same with the Patriot Act was supposed to be just for terrorists, and then it ended up, going after more than just terrorists. And these are just questions, man. A lot of people get offended by these questions like this, so there's checks and balances,
Well, they were really shook up by Darren McBreen because after this happened, they were just going completely ape. And we still got our interview because they were doing interviews before we got there and then said, oh, well, we're not doing interviews. Well, we just set up a camera 50 feet away. He asked the questions. There they are. And again, the state police haven't even been on my radar screen, but now you are on our radar screen, trying to imply we're not media, trying to imply. There we are with a microphone saying Infowars. And you're like, well, you're not on 590 because before they said, well, where are you broadcast? Always implying like we're not media. And we're like, well, 590 Channel 10. Well, you're not 590. I liken this to Weldon Henson runs my shipping department, and he can fill up 500 people. He just played to a couple thousand at the Houston Rodeo. But that's his night job. His day job is working here. And that'd be like if he packs the Continental Club whenever he plays there once a month. If somebody called up the Continental Club and said, Weldon Henson, who plays country music, does Weldon Henson work there? And they're like, well, no, but he plays here. Oh, he's a liar. He's not at the Continental Club. I mean, it's like some kind of game. And they're calling up like everybody over there going, Alex Jones and his people are misrepresenting that they work with you. I don't know. I just go to their events and speak at their events, and I'm on the radio there. Sure, I've got my own sprawling complex here. I mean, I'm on over 100 AM and FM stations. Again, it shows the system cannot deal with the fact that you don't have air superiority anymore. You're not just going to do this to us in the dark anymore. Buddy, we have millions of listeners a day. All right, yeah, but that doesn't count. You know, it doesn't count that on Alexa.com we're much bigger than MSNBC.com. You can go see it. Doesn't count. Doesn't count how many. Doesn't matter if I have 15 million listeners a week. It doesn't matter if I'm on the cover of Talkers magazine. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter because you are God. And you're going to call up and imply I'm a lying dirtbag. Oh, yeah, they determined you weren't media in Pittsburgh and arrested you. They said, oh, you're filming us, attacking people. We're going to let all the mainstream media out, but you're not media. Well, we're suing them. And they've already tried to settle with dude, but that's not happening. There was no settlement made. You're not media. You're trash. You're scum. Okay? You're not a big corporate New World Order outfit that reads off a teleprompter. In fact, Darren, during that report, he's like, do you got any talking points? Like you're going to give me those and I'm going to give you a sheet back. This is not real reporting. In the old days, government ran from reporters because they knew they were all there trying to get the muckraking story. That was the style of journalism. And news was exciting, man. It was like, you know, there was like every town, the town, 60, 70 years ago, a town the size of Austin would have like 10 newspapers. There'd be 3 or 4 that came out at 5 a.m. There'd be one that came out at 10, one at noon. One at 5. Then there'd be the couple of evenings. That's why there's all these papers have names like Evening Standard. Because, you know, it's like up-to-date news, like the internet, man. Bam, 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 bam. And you're like, oh, I want that one. I want that one. And it was all about the muckraking. Now it's about lazy reporters. I've seen it in radio and TV. Just a press release comes in and they just read what government tells them. Well, this is teleprompter free, folks. It didn't happen in here. Okay, I'm done. I got to hurry up here. We got like 2 more hours coming up. Breitbart, I've talked to a lot of big talk show hosts. I've talked to folks that knew Breitbart well, and I don't just mean the reporter we talked to yesterday. I mean folks that know him well. Well. About as well as you're going to know him. And the consensus is they think he was murdered. And I talked to Corsi on the radio today, who's been talking to Breitbart just a few days ago, and is releasing all this birth certificate stuff with Sheriff Arpaio. The sheriff's department thinks they may be being threatened. This may be the White House, and they've beefed up all their security. And that broke today. That's big. In fact, I got to call our writers. They don't even, it's like Sheriff Arpaio and, you know, getting more security. I mean, because of Obama. I mean, this is breaking news. And he talked to Breitbart hours before he died on the phone. Wow, this is huge. Getting calls from New York. Let's see who this is. Hello. Hey. Oh, hey, you're the Discovery Channel guy? I'm sorry, I went over. I totally apologize. Can I call you back during a break in like 5 minutes? I apologize. I'll call you right back. I'm telling you, ladies and gentlemen, it's total transparency. I'm like an octopus here just getting stuff done. All right. Breitbart. Wait till they see what happens March 1st. So it turns out he was going to release the video of Obama and commie meetings and all this stuff that would bring him down March 1st, and he died a few hours before in the early hours of March 1st. That's one of the biggest stories in the country right now, up on drugsreport.com. Also, Breitbart's footage shows Obama palling around with terrorists, Weather Underground. And now the Breitbart folks are saying that the footage will be released within the next 2 weeks. Well, I want to know why it's going to be released the next 2 weeks. It should come out now. But we'll go ahead and go to some of the other cases where we've heard of them talking about we'll see the video in the next 2 weeks. You know, I've heard that before in Hollywood.
It'll take 2 weeks. Here's your pomade.
2 weeks?
Excuse me?
2 weeks? That don't do me no good.
2 weeks. 2 weeks.
Well, ain't this place a geographical oddity? 2 weeks from everywhere.
There's a set of tapes, and we're going through it. The staff, you know, he attracted fighters. He attracted guys like Joel Pollack and Ben Shapiro and Larry O'Connor. The guys are going through a series of tapes of President Obama at Harvard, and we'll come back to you in a week or two. I think a week to 10 days. But this is something, Andrew, we're very systematic about going through these things.
So 2 weeks, we're going to get those. It was going to come out March 1st, but now it's 2 weeks. And I just realized we got breaking news here that Arpaio and Corsi and others are having to get more security because they're concerned and think this may have been a hit. Man, that is some amazing breaking news right there. And with more on the mysterious death of Andrew Breitbart, we're joined by investigative journalist, former officer at the National Security Agency, Wayne Madsen. The reason I wanted to get Wayne on is he had to leave the country for 4 or 5 months last year because high-level sources told him that the word is the White House is going to kill you, especially if you keep going to Chicago and investigating the mafia ties, the CIA ties, the ties to communist groups. Well, Andrew Breitbart was set, we've now confirmed, as we just covered, to release March 1st, yesterday, the footage of Obama at these communist meetings. Now, it's going to be a few weeks till those get released. Is something going to be redacted? Joining us is Wayne Madsen of WayneMadsenReport.com. Wayne, thanks for joining us. What's your early first take, and what are your sources saying about what happened to Breitbart?
Well, I was covering the Conservative Political Action Committee annual meeting here in Washington about 2.5 weeks ago, and I remember Breitbart giving one of these impassioned presentations. I was told by others there, now I don't recall him saying this, I was told by others there that he had this smoking gun evidence. He didn't get into any details. I spoke to Larry Sinclair, who has some information on Breitbart. Apparently he called the LA Medical Examiner's office, and I think we have to look at the jaded record of the LA Medical Examiner's office in high-profile deaths. I mean, starting with Marilyn Monroe and a few others. But I think we have to wait to see what the autopsy says. And look, even if there are drugs found, the word is that he was drinking in a bar earlier that evening before he died of an apparent heart attack on the sidewalk, I guess in the Brentwood neighborhood. And I've been cautioned many times to watch my own unattended glass of wine and various establishments I've been to here in Washington, because, as you said, I received 3 credible threats from 3 credible sources. So I don't take those threats lightly. Look, the history, we've had some journalists in this country who have been murdered, starting with Danny Casolaro, who was investigating George H.W. Bush, and Gary Webb, who supposedly committed suicide. Both these were said to be suicides. Gary Webb had done a seminal work on the whole CIA cocaine importation business in this country. So, I don't take the fact that journalists who may be on the verge of something dying suddenly, I say let's wait for the evidence.
Well, I know this kind of, alternative Republican muckrakers like Michael Savage are hiding out, do have bodyguards. I knew this from private sources that never mentioned it, but now Savage has talked about the fact that he warned Breitbart when he met with him a few years ago to get bodyguards. The fact that I've talked to some other people close to Breitbart and that, they're concerned and think that this was some type of killing. I mean, look at what Obama's doing, the people that blackmail him. He's stealing trillions of dollars and giving it in special contracts to people. And we know the Republican and Democratic power structure fight with each other over the levers. We know Obama ran Fast and Furious, all these other criminal operations. So I think we'd be foolish not to look at this suspiciously. But yeah, he could have died of drugs, heart attack, whatever. The fact that it's the day he's saying he's going to release this stuff, and then now it hasn't been released, that just sends up big red flags for me.
Well, you know, and let's look at whatever he had. If it's early footage or photographic evidence of Obama attending Marxist meetings or communist meetings, whether he was there with Bill Ayers or Bernardine Dorn or any of these people, my contention is that Obama was selected at a very young age to infiltrate these groups. And I got word, of course, from old members of the Black Panther Party in Chicago that when he showed up, after he left that CIA job in Manhattan, when he showed up in Chicago suddenly and saying, "Hey, I'm Barry Obama, and I'm really, you know, I'm really in with you guys here." And they told me they knew he was a plant from the very beginning because they said he was a phony. They knew he wasn't from their neighborhood, that he had been parachuted in, is the word I got. And they were, you know, having dealt with COINTELPRO and FBI infiltrators for years, they were very suspicious of him. So I think this has to be, this report, if true, has to be looked at in context that Obama was, you know, basically chosen to infiltrate these various groups because of his own background. Half African American, had a Indonesian stepfather, attended a Muslim school in Jakarta. So, you know, this was the perfect candidate for that.
He's been an operative most of his life and lived around it. You've been to Indonesia, you've been to the Middle East, you've been to Libya, you've tracked all this, but you didn't start getting these death threats from sources saying, yeah, this is coming from the White House as a warning until last year. What was it you were working on? I mean, I know it was going to Chicago. What were you looking into that has got them threatening you? Because obviously that's where we need to look closer.
Yeah, well, it wasn't the story that, of course, Larry Sinclair advanced about his, at least his bisexuality. What I was warned off on was the background of Obama in Indonesia with the Central Intelligence Agency. This is the one thing that they can't handle at the White House. The reason being is they can handle this birth certificate story. They basically run Hawaii. Neil Abercrombie's the governor. He knew Stanley Ann Dunham, Obama's mother. He knew the family. So and he's governor of Hawaii now. So of course he's in a position to tamp anything down on that front. But I always thought that the real issue with Obama, and the one that they really can't handle, is his links and his possible ties to the Central Intelligence Agency as early on as Occidental in L.A., but possibly even traveling on an Indonesian passport after he reached the age of 18, going to Pakistan, going to India, traveling around on that. And that was basically confirmed to me by somebody who was very close to the office of President of Indonesia, the current president of Indonesia, whose prior job, of course, was the head of the Indonesian intelligence service.
Let's shift gears into NDAA. That's really blown up in Obama's face, the fact that he demanded the secret arrest provisions and the power to kill citizens. It's obviously unconstitutional, but he says he has that power. Now he's saying he won't enforce it and has signed this executive directive to the bureaucracies. But when you have a president seeking the power to kill citizens, even in America, and then his political enemies start dying mysteriously, that pretty much convicts him right there that he was seeking this power. I mean, could we see the implementation of NDAA taking place? We saw Judge Andrew Napolitano, who was anti-war and anti-Republican and Democratic establishment, with some of the highest ratings on Fox Business, fired. We saw the same week Buchanan fired. And he said he was told, don't criticize the war, don't criticize what Israel's doing. So I'm seeing a purge, and I've talked to high-level people in the media who've been told, leave Obama alone. Basically, Rupert Murdoch is being blackmailed by the Justice Department over his crimes in England. And sure enough, we now see his son leaving England, people getting arrested. I'm not saying what they did in England was okay. It's just that I think we're seeing an internal power structure battle, because they're obviously for the same global corporate fascist system, but they're fighting over who gets to control that trough. What's your take on that?
Well, look, I think this all started with Bush when we had the unitary executive basically become the law of the land, that the White House enjoys sovereign immunity, even over the Constitution of the United States. And then Obama's done nothing to give up any of those powers. As a matter of fact, he's taken on even more powers. For example, Obama is currently prosecuting at least 7 people under the Espionage Act from 1917. Now, this is the law that Woodrow Wilson used to go after people who thought we shouldn't be getting into World War I on behalf of the United Kingdom. And it was, of course, it was upgraded in 1948 by Senator Pat McCarran. Of course, it was the McCarran Act was finally passed in 1950, and that had to do with further establishing the national security state during the Alger Hiss investigation. So what we have are a Cold War and a World War I law being used now to stifle people in the government from reporting wrongdoing to journalists, and we still have the government trying to put a New York Times reporter in jail for not going before a grand jury to reveal his sources, Jim Risen. So in this respect, Obama is worse than Bush when it comes to this whole frontal attack on freedom of the press in this country. Now, would they go the extra mile and start doing things to journalists or bloggers or anyone else who they find is a threat? I'm still of an open mind, because I received 3 credible threats, and I took seriously. So I would not put it past them to do that. But I think we have to wait before we start saying anything else. Let's wait to see what the LA Medical Examiner's Office has to say.
Sure, but again, I go back to that point that I made right as you were coming on. The fact that within 2 hours or a little bit less of him being announced dead, they were saying natural causes, nothing to worry about, move along, move along. And any other time I've seen it, like with Gary Webb or other cases you mentioned, when they do kill somebody, they immediately announce that it was suicide or natural causes when there is foul play.
I'll tell you, I was almost as surprised to hear who his father-in-law was, Orson Bean, the old panelist on To Tell the Truth, who I think was one of the first people who indicated that it might have been from natural causes. But I frankly thought that Orson Bean had died years ago. So I was almost as surprised about that in this case. I mean, it's very bizarre.
And wasn't Orson Bean even blacklisted back during the Red Scare?
Yeah. He was an aspiring actor in Hollywood who was accused of attending Communist Party meetings. Okay, so here we go full circle, and he was sort of blacklisted in the 50s. So his career really had to do with appearing on, as a panelist on To Tell the Truth and The Match Game with, Bud Collyer and Gene Rayburn.
Beyond bizarre. Now, I always love the wild card here, because we don't do pre-interviews with you, obviously. But you did, right before we went on, mention that you were at the CPAC event and you talked to Mr. Sinclair, and he said he did talk to Andrew Breitbart. So tell us about that, and then briefly, any other things you're investigating right now.
Yeah, I spoke to Larry. I spoke to him at CPAC, but I talked to him this morning, and there was an event called a Bloggers Bash at CPAC. I was not there, but Larry was there, and he told me the next day that he had spoken to Breitbart, and Breitbart had told him about wait till March the 1st about something. Now, in Breitbart's speech to the whole CPAC audience, he said that they said something about some sort of evidence, might have been photographs or video about Obama, but I frankly wasn't paying attention. But I did speak to some other folks who were there today, and they said absolutely that he did refer to that during his speech.
No, we have that clip. In fact, I was going to play it at the end of the interview. Do we have that clip right now? Yes. Yeah, let's go ahead. Can we play that where he can hear it? Okay, great. Yeah, no, here's the clip. In fact, we put this out yesterday morning. We dug up where he told 3 different sources, yeah, I'm going to release the communist stuff on March 1st. Obama's going to really not like this. We're going to take him down. So, yes, he did indeed say and do that, Wayne. Here is that clip of him at CPAC.
And so what do we get now in Barack Obama? Well, I've got videos, by the way. This election, we're going to vet him. I've got videos. This election, we're going to vet him from his college days to show you why racial division and class warfare are central to what Hope and Change was sold in 2008. The videos are going to come out. The narrative is going to come out that Barack Obama met a bunch of silver ponytails back in the 1980s, like Bill and Bernadine Dorn, who, equally radical, said one day we're going to have the presidency, and the rest of us slept while they plotted and they plotted and they plotted, and they oversaw hundreds of millions of dollars in the Annenberg Challenge, and they had real money from real capitalists.
So there it is, Wayne. You were there but missed that. Yeah. But no, it's not a rumor. There it is.
Right. And as I say, look, there's a lot of questions about Bill Ayers himself, whether he was in fact also a deep plant for the U.S. intelligence community to, basically root out, confirmed members of the Weatherman faction of the SDS.
Well, why did Bill Clinton pardon so many of convicted communist bombers who had actually bombed police and people? That does point towards them actually being operatives.
Yeah, and look, even Bill Clinton, we know that when he was at Oxford, he went over to Moscow, and it was thought that he was ratting out members of the National Students Association. We know that the National Students Association was jam-packed full of informants. That the leader of the National Students Association included a later congressman named Allard Lowenstein from New York, was working for the CIA at the same time that he was a leader of the National Students Association. This was a CIA front, and of course, the whole issue was to be invited to these communist-sponsored World Youth Conferences, and every place from Havana to Belgrade to Moscow and other places to start dossiers on actual rank and file, card-carrying Marxist-Leninists. So Clinton himself was thought to have turned over some information to the agency.
But it's not just they're infiltrating, as you just pointed out. Sometimes they're leading the groups. They want to create their own opposition. It's like creating Al-Qaeda. They're not just infiltrating it. It's full spectrum dominance. They're creating and controlling all points on the compass so they can control the outcome.
Right. It's just like the FBI now setting up these people who supposedly Muslims who they're saying, we're planning some sort of an attack. We find out that the FBI is supplying them with the weapons, with the cash, with the, everything. And this is sort of like engineered from the very beginning by the FBI, and they get some dupe or a patsy to go along with it. And then they charge that individual with some sort of conspiracy to commit some act of terrorism. It's happening all the time these days.
Wayne, in closing, what are some of the other big stories you're working on right now at WayneMadsonReport.com?
Well, the big story I broke yesterday was the fact that the warrantless NSA wiretapping program still exists It's being used to target journalists and elected politicians primarily. And because NSA, because of the revelations about this program, which was code-named Stellar Wind, by the way, it was never called the terrorist surveillance program. When Bush got caught doing it during his administration, they put the word out, oh, this is called the terrorist surveillance program. It was never called that. It was called the program. Then they tried to backload the terrorist part into it to say, oh, yeah, but we were doing it to catch terrorists. They were never using it against terrorists. I got very good sources on this that said they were using this to go after journalists, people in the government who were leaking information to journalists, and elected politicians. And now, since NSA got caught, they've shifted the responsibility and the operations over to the U.S. Cyber Command, which happens to be also led by the same individual who leads the National Security Agency. In this case, is General Keith Alexander. So they've just moved it over to the cyber surveillance side of that house from the traditional NSA signals intelligence operations.
Which, of course, you worked in the NSA. Now, remember, same thing happened 9 years ago when Poindexter, the convicted crook of Iran-Contra, got caught spying on everything, our credit card purchases, phone calls. He was bragging. So there was a big hubbub because he was bragging to the New York Times. They were trying to post 9/11, just kind of hide it in plain view and sell the idea of total surveillance, just like they tried to sell torture in the name of fighting terror. And when he got caught doing it, they just moved it over to a private group in Virginia, which was just their front. So it's always like whack-a-mole where it just jumps around, Wayne.
Yeah, and now we got to look at Stratfor, too, with these this recent release of their emails. It's very clear that, look, you know, again, it's like the WikiLeaks stuff from the State Department cables. Look at the material. A lot of it's based on gossip, hearsay. Look, even so, those Stratfor emails, the people that were sending in this information, their English was, you know, horrible.
Well, yeah, let me stop you right there. Isn't Stratfor really just a megaphone to put out Pentagon propaganda so they can act like, look, private intelligence groups are saying this? Because Stratford's based here in Austin. They even had a local radio show on 590, a piece they would do. And I would listen, and it just sounded like propaganda, not real intelligence. But then looking at these emails, it's like big news in Politico and everywhere today. Oh, my gosh, there was a sealed indictment against Assange. You said that on my show 8, 9, 10 months ago. Then I saw it in papers, mainstream papers. All Stratfor was doing was reporting on what was already in the news, and now the media is like, it's a private intelligence group. It's like God said it because it was in an email, and you read it, it's just a bunch of garbledy-gook.
Yeah, and they fed this stuff directly into networks like CNN and Fox would pick up on that. We know who their subscribers are now. And basically, it's the old mighty Wurlitzer, where the CIA used to feed stuff directly to the media. They even had reporters on their payroll. The mighty Wurlitzer was to put this stuff out there, disinformation, and it looks like it's just been privatized and given off to companies like Stratfor, and also remember Blackwater had its own intelligence operation. Total Information Systems, which did the same type of thing.
By the way, they just popped in my ear, Rob Dew. I've been out of town for a week and a half, and he just told me I was mentioned in a Stratfor email. Come on in here, Dew. This is because I saw some YouTube comments going, Jones, you know, they call you a kook in Stratfor, and then I just didn't even believe that. And then now you just, next time you hear this, tell me, come in on the air. Tell people what.
Yeah, we put it in on your desk this morning. They actually, it was during the Osama bin Laden death. And they were saying, basically, I wish they would put this to bed and tell the truth so crazies like Glenn Beck and Alex Jones stop complaining. So that's basically what they said in the email. And we're getting the
oh, wow, so they called me a crazy.
Pretty much, yeah. Yeah, and it was all, and then the guy sent us more. We got this from a listener this morning.
You know what? I'm going to challenge Dr. Friedman, because I've asked him on like 20 times over the years, literally. I've asked them, we're going to send our reporters down there. That's it. Because I am sick and tired. Oh, here it is.
Lunatics. I'm sorry.
Okay, well, next time I'm in WikiLeaks stuff, please.
Yeah,
I know it's crazy.
This was on your desk, and we actually had it.
No, I know. I'm not mad at you. I just, there's so much here.
Yeah.
So, sorry, Wayne, breaking stuff here on air. Where am I? The government needs to make body pics available like the MXs do on OBL's pants pulled down to shut down lunatics like Alex Jones and Glenn Beck.
Yeah.
And
that was, I guess, around the time bin Laden was killed. That had to be like a couple days after. But they were reporting that they were getting intelligence that he was being taken to Dover Air Force Base.
No, I saw WikiLeaks saying that he was really, that's all bull. They put out fake intelligence to argue the other intelligence is wrong, so you believe the general story. Right. Just like they said, okay, he wasn't in a firefight, he didn't use his wife as a shield. They add all that. Well, okay, but the main story's true.
It's murky.
And then they blow the seals up in the aircraft. Good job, thank you.
Right.
Thank you. Just breaking news here. Now, Wayne, live newsroom here with this stuff happening as we do this interview. I talked to a current Navy SEAL. I'm going to leave it at that. I don't want to give out too much data or they'll be able to figure out who it is. And let's just say known to my family for a decade. Well, his dad is. And he's not in SEAL Team 6, but he said the SEALs do believe that helicopter, the second one that blew up with the 20-something SEALs on it, was a hit. And now I was actually given the number to Navy SEALs, and I've been so busy I haven't gotten in touch with them. They're saying they're being told to get ready for another stage false flag. Remember Cheney 5 years ago, tried to have the SEALs attack U.S. ships. Remember that?
Right. Well, I was told by a source with SEAL Team 6 or SEAL Team 2, Navy SEAL Team 2, that it was definitely, they thought that chopper was taken down to eliminate witnesses. Now we have the compound in Abbottabad being razed to the ground. And then when they're doing that, they find 2 English language Bibles where supposedly Osama bin Laden had these secret codes. Now, why would a guy who's a Saudi Arab be putting secret codes in an English language Holy Bible? The whole thing smells. I mean, it's ridiculous at face value. And but of course the media went and reported that nonsense. I agree with you. I think Stratfor, back when there was the 2000 coup against Hugo Chavez in Venezuela, I was contacted by a Stratfor person who was really interested in where my sources were that the CIA was involved with that coup. And of course I didn't give him any information, but he thought it was important that I find out that after I was quoted on that in a couple of newspapers, including The Guardian out of the UK and the Boston Globe, that Bush at his President's Daily Brief basically said, who does this, blankety blank hole think he is, talking about me. And he wanted to know what I thought of that. And I said, hey, if it's Bush that said it, I just consider the source. So Stratfor's always been involved in sort of this kind of media manipulation, which I see as just nothing more than a follow-on to Cord Meyer's and Frank Wisner Sr.'s Mighty Wurlitzer operation.
Sure. In closing, now that I've been given this WikiLeaks that I'm in, where I'm being called a lunatic, along with Glenn Beck, by these guys, that shows that Glenn Beck's fallen out of favor with them because he'll actually expose, more of the left-right paradigm and how behind the scenes it's all run by the same group. Because I've now confirmed from Fox sources he was run out because he was going after Soros and he was told shut up. And to his credit, even though I don't particularly like Beck, he's done some stuff to me behind the scenes. It shows he's not entirely bad, which is a good thing to know. I guess he's kind of like Darth Vader. There is some good in him. I want to know. Because obviously Stratfor is bad news, but then you're right, WikiLeaks is fed info that certain groups like Soros want out. So there's different camps here, but now they're getting ready to burn Assange. I'm not saying he's a CIA agent. I've always said he's being used as the front. I know you've said that. So in summation, why would the system want to burn Stratfor? I understand it's not good guy, bad guy. It's more like different arms of the same structure fighting with each other. What do you think is going on between Anonymous, WikiLeaks, and this Stratfor group?
Well, I think you're right. It could be various factions because the CIA is not a, this monolithic organization. You got a bunch of retirees from different administrations with different axes to grind. You've got the George H.W. Bush people. You got the old agency people who were brought in by Stansfield Turner under Carter. You've got the people came in under Clinton. So they're all like, none of them are singing from the same song sheet, certainly. And they could be leaking stuff to various entities. But I put Stratfor in the same category. There's an Israeli website called Debka.
Yeah.
Debka File, which does the same thing for the Mossad. And then, there's a Stratfor thing where they say, oh, the Israelis working with Kurdish guerrillas destroyed all of Iran's nuclear facilities. Well, anyone who believes that, would believe in the East. It's obviously some sort of message to Tehran, more for the domestic, because they have a controlled media over there. That's more for the domestic.
Well,
Iranian
sure, it's
population.
admitted that there's all sorts of giant underground bases that even the best bunker busters aren't going to be able to hit.
Right. So you see, but the problem is, of course, this lickspittle media, this group of stenographers out there, they pick up on everything and run it as
well. There's this idea that Stratfor, I can start a group called Genius or even more awesomer. There's oh my God, and you're right. It's a bunch of crusty guys, and they're picking their nose, just calling people lunatics and just spewing garbage out.
Yeah. I never much put any faith in Stratfor after my encounter with them over the Chavez coup the coup against Hugo Chavez in 2000.
Exactly. I've got to be honest. I know Debka is an Israeli, front, probably even Shin Bet domestically. But I found overall their stuff turns out to be more accurate than Stratfor because, they were admitting that, they're using al-Qaeda to attack Libya. There's 3 groups invading Syria. This is going to happen in a few months. I found Debka has actually been pretty accurate.
Yeah, they're probably a little more professional when it comes to this type of, program than the clowns at the CIA are. But I think, this is an information war, as you use the term correctly. It's an information war, and we're in it's now pretty much a hot war with Anonymous and WikiLeaks and all these other entities out there putting this information out on the internet because it's like it's basically Karl Rove's old paradigm. You throw something on the wall and see what sticks, whether it's true or not.
And overall, it just creates a fog of war meant to confuse those that aren't that informed. That's why all I know is we're losing our Bill of Rights and Constitution. I want my freedom back. I want my country back. And I'm against anybody who isn't for freedom and wants to take our liberties. And my job's simple. I'm an American. I'm an info warrior who stands for liberty. And I know that Wayne Madsen stands for that as well. WayneMadsenReport.com. Thank you so much, Wayne.
Good to be with you, Alex.
All right. Amazing interview always with Wayne. Never can get enough of his insights, which I find to be right on, unfortunately. I wish he wasn't so right. I wish things weren't so crazy. And then it's on my desk. Well, it's like and I was seeing this stuff on YouTube comments like, hey, when are you going to talk about the Stratfor thing? And I'm like, what? And then, of course, they never put any facts.
This is exactly what we put on it.
Okay, yeah, here's what was on my desk. Oh, there's more? There's a whole bunch of this?
It's more on OBL.
Oh, my gosh. No wonder those Stratfor guys, every time I call to get them on as a guest, will never return our phone call. That's it. Next week, go down there. Isn't it downtown? Probably a bunch of guys literally just sitting there with chimpanzees at typewriters randomly typing stuff the way this is written. Anyways, at least here we try to get it right and actually do some research, That's why we've been so accurate. You want real intelligence? We're giving it to you just through open source research. And any of you can do it. Just use your common sense. Oh, my gosh. Here's a little promo for the speech I gave in Dallas, Blueprint to Defeat the New World Order. I got to be honest. I think it was a really good speech. I give it an A that I gave. But everybody told me the one in Orlando was an A+. So it's a great speech. It's coming up. I mean, I gave the speech. I haven't seen this video yet, but this is the high-quality shoot of it for you, the PrisonPlanet.tv viewers. That's coming up after Aaron Dykes comes in and interviews Cindy Sheehan. And then we'll air my hour-and-a-half speech in total. I didn't see much of it. I just saw you guys editing it. Did we add any of the question and answer? All those folks talking about how the Infowars saves lives, huh? Your mic's not on. I tell you, every day the equipment changes in there. I think we have like 18 gremlins. I think there's like a gremlin breeding hive. Go ahead. Still can't hear you. Whatever. Who knows if there's question and answer in it? Yes, 3 times the charm. Maybe if it wasn't so dark in there, you guys could see something. Talk about gremlins. Maybe you're the gremlins. I notice the more of you are in there, the worse things go. It's like, I'm just joking. Oh, it was so dark during the question and answer. It's fine. Let's put that out as a separate deal because I thought that was even cooler. Anyways, great job, crew. And we'll be right back with Aaron Dykes and then the entirety of the speech that I gave in Dallas a week and a half ago. It's Infowars Nightly News. If you're not a subscriber, it is those of you out there that are subscribers that are financing this, paying it forward for the millions that watch it every week, free on the web. You see it when you're a member here first. All the films, 9 years now up and running for PrisonPlanet.tv. And we got 15-day free trial going right now. And if you are watching this out there on the web later, please think about becoming a subscriber so we can continue to expand our operations in the face of the New World Order's assaults, both Infowars-wise and physical. All right, we'll be right back after this quick break. Stay with us. America, right here at this center place where we live, make no mistake, is where the battle will be fought. It's where the decisions will be made. We are the great evil empire, but we are also the great deliverer from the tyranny. But we have to decide who we are. We have the power. What would make these criminals put poisons in our food and water to try to blind us and fog our vision? Because they're scared of you. The crooks know how humans work. They know the secret of humanity, but they seek to hide it. They seek to block you from ever fully developing. They seek to block you from ever becoming who you really are because they're scared of you. And always remember that. That's the secret. There was so much we didn't get to, so much that we couldn't cover, so much that we couldn't show you how much crisis this world is in. Now, with that said, I've given you the blueprint of madmen. I want to give you the blueprint to defeat the New World Order. Evil is coming down on our children. Evil is coming down on our communities. Evil is coming down on us with all their plagues and all their disease and all their corruption that they gain power out of. And it's time for humanity to stand up in the info war and say, I don't know what's going to happen at the end of this, but you want to fight, you better believe you got one.
One is a serial hypocrite who lobbied for Freddie Mac before the housing crisis and for the individual mandate before Obamacare. Another, a counterfeit conservative who opposes right to work, massively increased spending, and funded Planned Parenthood. Finally, a flip-flopper who's been on all sides, supported TARP bailouts, and provided the blueprint for Obamacare. 3 men, 1 vision, more big government, more mandates, less freedom. 1 man stands apart, ready to deliver real change, voting against every tax increase and every unbalanced budget every time. A real plan to cut $1 trillion year 1 and to balance the budget in 3. Pro-life, pro-liberty, guided by faith and principle. Ron Paul, the one who will restore America now.
I'm Ron Paul, and I approve this message.
And it's time to get out of the comfort zone because these people aren't playing games. to come together. We are swinging muskets here, toe-to-toe with the globalists. They're bloodied, we're bloodied. It is absolute, total war.